All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So now in the last video, we stopped at this point and we were talking about the importance of the $? All right, command, right? Basically, we said that combining these two arguments together can help us to evaluate whether a previous command is ran successfully or it returned an error. And we said if we do echo, all right, and this, if it returns to 0, it means that the previous command executed successfully. So if I do something like this, all right, and I say echo, all right, dollar and question mark, it will return to me 1 to 7 because the previous command did not run successfully. And we have said that this command here can actually help us to evaluate, all right, any kind of command, right? So if you're running a shell script and you are dealing with two different operating systems, for example, right? This, combination of these characters can actually help you to decide if the script should run on this OS or on that OS, okay? So for example, if you have something like this, so which is the statement you want to evaluate, okay? So you can say if, okay, and then you say dollar question mark. So if this is equal to 0, all right, sorry, if this is equal to 0, then you want to execute whatever it is that you have after the then. Okay, so what that means is that if this statement returns 0, which means if you executed successfully, right, then whatever it is that you have under the if block will be executed. But if this expression right here returns, all right, did not run successfully, which means it's going to have the value 127, it means that this if block will not run. So if you have anything configured in the else block, that is what will run ultimately. All right. Now, I want to show us something before we go further. All right, more shell script. Now, in Linux, as you know by now, we're dealing with a CLI environment. It's a command line environment, so we don't have any GUI. There's no button to press. There's no graphics, nothing. It's just black and white. So if I don't know the commands that I need to use in this environment, all right, there's nothing really I will be able to do. All right. Now, how do I download stuff? So for example, I need to download a script. I need to download a file. I need to download a template. I need to download a code that I want to run in my environment. How do I do that? Okay. So there's a command in Linux called wget. So wget is basically a command you can use to what? Download something from a site. So if you need maybe a document, all you need is to say wget http, all right, s or something, colon, and then put the URL, and then you are able to download the file. Okay, and of course, like I've told us, every command in Linux can be used as standalone, or you can use it with argument, right? So you can say help, okay, and then it gives you a lot of argument, right, that you can use. It's just a lot. This is heavy, right? So this is a lot. So it gives you a lot of arguments that you can use, all right, with this command. Okay, so log message to file, append output to file. All right, I've been Q, a lot of them, right? So let's just clear the screen. Okay, so let's see how to use this. So if I say wget, sorry. Now, if I say wget, I can press enter. So enter is basically to find out if that command is actually installed, because in some version of Linux, wget may not be installed. So you have to install it, right, before you can make use of it. So now I will say wget. So let's assume that I just want to download maybe a template somewhere. So I can go to my browser. All right, come here. I'm going to close this. So let's say I want to download this template. I'm going to click on this template. All right, and then I'm going to come here to these three dots you have here. I'm going to click on more, and then I'll click on developer tools down here. All right. So now, basically what I want to do with the developer tools is that I want to be able to download something, because I don't need this template on my own laptop. I need it, all right, inside my Linux server. That's where I need it from. That's where I need it. That's where I need to use it. So here, make sure you are clicked on the network tab, all right? So scroll all the way down, find the download button. So here is the download button right here. So click on download. Now, of course, it's going to prompt me to save this file, all right, on my own system. But of course, it is not my system that needs it. It's the Linux system, all right, that I want to use it on. So I'm going to come here to filter, all All right. And of course, this template is going to be downloaded as a zip file. So I already have that information. So I'm going to come here to filter and then say zip. Okay. So this is the file right here. So I'm going to right click and then I'm going to say copy. I'm going to say copy URL. So copy that. And then so now you have to go back to your Ubuntu machine and then put the link here. All right. And then enter. It downloaded what? The package automatically for us. So you can see 200 OK. All right, then the file was downloaded. So now if I come here and say ls, I can see the file right here. Okay, isn't that beautiful? So now I can unzip it. So again, the command to unzip is to unzip, right? So if I press enter, it says command not found, which means this unzip command has not been installed. So how do I install it? We already learned how to install, right? So I'm going to say sudo apt install, all right, unzip. Okay, so that will install the unzip command for us. Okay, so what do I want to unzip? Okay, still installing. All right, so it's done. So let's clear. So what are we unzipping? So I'll say unzip. All right, so I can just copy this name here and then I can put that here. All right, don't forget the dot zip. And then so that will basically unzip it for us. Okay, so ls. And right now I have my file right here. Okay, so I can copy this and say change directory. All right, and then ls. All right, I can see all of the files right here. So now I can begin to edit, make modifications, whatever it is that I want to do with this file is up to me. So that is how you can download something, all right, inside of your Linux environment. Okay, and if you want to connect to a Git repository as well, you can also just do Git, all right, maybe Git clone, for example. But I mean, we're going to get into Git as we go on. So, but let me not go ahead of myself. Okay, but basically, if you want to file any template into your Linux, that is how to go about it. So wget is the command. Is that okay? All right. So let's go ahead and let's continue our shell scripting journey. Okay, so all right, so let's delete this template that we downloaded. So I'm going to say rm-rf, it's a folder. So I'm just going to say *.zip, which means anything that ends with .zip, just delete it. Now, that's going to be a problem. I mean, so it's going to delete the one that ends with .zip, but the one that I've extracted will not be deleted. So you can see that there's a catch there. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to say, you know what? 2136, okay, that's the name of the file, right? And I'm going to say asterisk, so which means anything that starts with 2136, let it go. Okay, so I'm going to press enter. Now if I do ls, the two folders, all right, they're gone. Good. All right, so let's move on. Let's look at another shell scripting. Now, this time around, I want us to look at the for loop. All right, the for loop. Now, what is a for loop? Now, a for loop basically, now the if that we looked at in the last video, it's a conditional. So if this is true, do this, all right? Else do this other thing. Now, a for loop is basically one of those, is one of the, is it keyword now, all right? Or basically, let's just say command generally, that you can actually use in your Linux, all right, shell scripting. And what it does is that it's a loop, a for loop. So a loop basically means it's going to do something repeatedly, right? That's what a loop is. So you say, oh, this thing is a loop, okay? Or maybe you say something is playing on repeat, right? It means that it's just going to go around the circle. So doing the same thing repeatedly, okay? Now, a for loop, because we have two types of loop, there's the while loop and then there's the for loop. But I really want us to concentrate on the for loop. Now, a for loop, what does it do? Now, let's assume that I have a file, okay? That file contains a list of names, okay? So I have Sheon, BC, Kola, Dolakbo, Collins, all right? A list of names. Now, these are users that I want to create in my environment. So I want to create them. So they are users. I need to create them, okay? Now, using a for loop, I can actually hand over the list of names to for loop. And then I will say, Mr. For loop, iterate over this list, which means go over this list repeatedly, all right, and do this. Okay, so the for loop will go over the list and do something. So what would it do? It's basically going to execute the command that you specify within the do and the done block. So there are two blocks. The same way you have your if and fi. right? The for loop also has what you call do, the do section, and then it ends it with what is called done. So let's take a look at this example. That'll be the fifth script, right? Okay, so let's take a look at that. So nano fifth script, all right? So let's take a look at how we can use the for loop. So I'm going to say here bin bash, okay, and then I'm going to specify users. So I have a list of users. Now users here is what? A variable. Now inside of this variable, I have this set of users. So I have Sean, all right, I have Danny, or let me just say I have Collins, okay, and then I have Blessing, all right, and then I have, let's say, Topman, and then I have, let's say, Victor, okay, so I have Victor, right? So I have four names. So there's Collins, there's Blessing, there's Topware, there's Victor. Now the users here, all right, is a variable. So that variable is, all right, is holding four items or four values. So Collins, Blessing, Topware, and Victor. Now, these are users that I want to create in my environment, all right? They are users, maybe we just employ them, all right? We need to create a user account for them. They should be able to log in and do things within our system. So we need to create an account for them, right? Now, if I want to use my follow to create all of these four users, how do I go about it? Because now this is not a conditional, okay? It's not a conditional thing. It's basically, I want to create something. And this time around, this thing that I want to create, I could have created them, independently or individually, right? Just use user add or add user Collins, user add Blessing, user add Topway. I mean, that would have worked, okay? But imagine if you have 100 users that you want to create. Imagine if you have 50 users that you want to create. I mean, you're going to waste a lot of time creating them one by one, okay? So that is basically what the for loop will help us to achieve. So instead of creating these users one by one, what will I do? I will use a for loop to basically iterate over the list of names and then create all this account for me automatically. All right. So what's the expression like? So the expression for loop is for. Now the for loop also has its own variable. Okay. So for example, I can say for names. All right. So for names. So basically the names here is the variable that the for loop is going to use. So I'll say for names in $users. For names in what? In users. So basically, the names that you have here is the variable that belongs to the for loop. Remember, I said the for loop basically will do what? Will iterate over a list. So we have a list here. So the users contains four items: Collins, Blessing, Topper, Victor. The for loop is going to go over this list and then execute a command for us. Okay? But now the for loop is not going to go over this list, all right, at the same time, right? It is what? A loop, which means it goes the first time, all right? It completes the execution, comes again the second time, completes the execution, comes again the third time, completes the execution, all right? It comes as many times, all right, as the number of items that we have in that list. So if you have four items in the list, it's going to go how many times? 4 times. So that means the loop is going to happen how many times? 4 times. Okay. Now, as the loop is happening, for the first time, it is going to go into the user's variable, grab the first item there, which is Collins, and put that into its own variable, which is names. And then the command that you want the for loop to run for you, all right, is going to be executed against its own variable. So you have two variables here. So there's the users variable, which contains the list of names that you want to create. There's also another variable by the for loop, which is for names. So that names there is what? The names you have here is for what? Is for the for loop. So this user is basically just, a variable that contains a list of names. So what the for loop would do is that the first loop will look into this user variable, all right, grab the first item here, Collins, and pass that into its own variable. All right. So now after this, the command that will be executed against this variable, not against this. So the for loop is using this variable, all right, grabbing the items in that variable, passing it into its own variable, and then executing commands against its own variable. All right, so let's see how it does it. So the syntax here is do. So what are we doing? So we're going to say echo. All right, so we're going to say adding users or adding user. Okay, and then we close that. So basically, now I want my for loop to take some time, all right, after each loop. Okay, I don't want it to happen so fast. I want my for loop to maybe, sleep for some 2 seconds before the next loop, which means after the first loop, all right, take a break and then go again, all right, take a break and go again. Okay, so I'll use the command sleep. And then, so your sleep is in seconds, right? So I'll say sleep for 5 seconds, which means when the first loop runs, all right, the for loop is going to sleep for what? For 5 seconds, and then execute again, sleep again for 5 seconds, execute again, sleep again for 5 seconds, execute again until it has exhausted all the items in the list. Okay? So here, I'll come here now and I'll say echo. So let's do some beautifications like we always do. All right, so let's just try to make it look nice. So I'm going to say echo, and then I'm going to run a command. So the command I want to run is what? Is user add. Now remember, user add command is a command that modifies the etc/passwd directory, right? So that means I cannot use this command without the sudo privilege. Okay, so you say sudo user add. So what are we adding? Now, we are not adding users. Okay, that's not what we're adding. We are adding what? Names. Because we're using what? The for loop. So the for loop is going to go into the user list, grab the first item, and then put it into its own variable names. Okay, and then execute the command that was specified. Go again the second time, grab the second item in that list, put it in its own variable, all right, execute the command, and then go again the third time, all right, as many items we have in the list, that's how, all right, that is the number of times your for loop is going to execute. Okay, so here, now I want to print out the ID of the users, all right, that, the for loop is creating. So I'll say ID, again, is going to be what? ID names. Okay, and so here, I'll go the last time, and then you can just say echo, add some beautifications again, all right, and then you can close that. So here I'm going to put date, just to show me the date when the user was created. And then lastly, just like we did for the if block, for the for loop, we have what you call the done. So you say done. So basically that closes that, all right, block of code. So Control O to save, Control X to exit out, all right, so you know what to do, chmod plus X, and then that's the fifth script, okay? So /fifth script, all right, so let's see for loop in action. Are you ready? Let's go. So look at that, adding user. Can you see that? So the user Collins was added. So it slept for how many minutes? For 5 seconds. Did the second one, another 5 seconds. The third one, another 5 seconds. All right. And the fourth one. Okay. So here it says the user tuple already exists. So I'm of course going to skip that, right? So look at what the for loop did. So for each of the user, it created, all right, the users for us. Okay. So now if I do something like, sudo cat, all right, etc/passwd, all right, I should see all my users here. So I can see Topway, I can see Collins, I can see Blessing, I can see Victor. Okay, so that is the beauty of shell script. Okay, so you did everything for us. So look at that. All right, so you can see all the users were created using the shell scripting, using shell script. So that is the interesting part, all right, of this thing. Now, what I want us to do is this. Okay, so we've seen a few things. Let's try, something. Now, in one of the videos, we used the apt command to install Apache, all right, on our Ubuntu server. Okay, so let's check that out. So sudo systemctl status Apache 2. Now, it is not here, okay? Now, so it's not available now. Now, this systemctl command It is basically a systemd command that you can use to check the status of services that are running on your system. Okay, so if you install any service, you can say systemctl status or systemctl start if the service is not started, or systemctl enable if the service is not enabled. And you can also say do systemctl stop to stop a service. So the flow is systemctl, all right, the verb, which is status, all right, or start or stop, or maybe disable or enable, and then the service that you are trying to find. Okay, now let's take an example. So let's say, for example, we have a requirement. Okay, in a place of work, they've told us we have like 10 servers that we need to set up. There are 10 Ubuntu servers. And these 10 servers, let me open up my notepad here, okay? All right, so let's say we have this requirement, okay? So let's say we have 10 servers, all right, that we've been told we need to configure. So we need to install on them Ubuntu, all right, maybe 5 of them. Let's say 5 of them, we need to put Ubuntu on 5 of them. And then the other 5, we need to put, let's say, CentOS, or let's say Amazon Linux. All right, so we need to put Amazon Linux on 5, and then 5 Ubuntu. Okay, and so what we want to do on this server is that we want to run, all right, the Apache. So let's say we want to run the Apache web server on all 10 servers. Okay, so that's what we want to do. So on all the 10 servers, we want to run the Apache web server on all the 10 of them. And we have been tasked with, installing the web server. And of course, our front-end developer, right, has also developed a beautiful, all right, landing web page. Okay, so that when anybody accesses our website, they're going to see a very wonderful landing page. Now, our duty or responsibility is to, number one, install the Apache, all right, install the Apache web server. That's our duty. So which means the Apache web server must be installed on all the 10 servers. Okay. Number two, we need to download and copy the, let's say, the front end, all right, template. Okay. We need to download and copy the front end template on, all right, on all web servers. Okay. So those are the two things that we have been tasked to do. So install Apache web server on all the 10 servers, okay, and then download and copy the front end, okay. So this should be the front end rather, but not just front. So download and copy the front end template. Sorry, front end. Okay. So download and copy the front end template on all web servers. All right, and we have been told. Sorry. So download. Okay, what's going on? So download and copy the front end template, all right, on all web servers. So number three, we have been told to execute this, all right, all right, this task using, all right, shell scripting. Okay, so we've been asked to execute this task using what? Shell scripting. So which means we need to write a shell script that would install Apache on all our servers, okay, and also download the template and copy the template to what? Into our web servers directory. Okay, now we have been told that we should use shell scripting to do this. So which means we can go into the terminal and start doing apt install this, copy this. We can't do that. So we need to write a shell script that is capable, all right, of executing all of these things on all the 10 web servers. So how do we go about this? Okay, now let's start and let's take it one by one. So 10 web servers, run Apache web server on all 10 servers, and then download and copy the front-end template on all the web servers, and we are to execute this using the shell script. Now, let's begin. So where do we start from? We need to write a shell script. Okay, so ls. All right, so let's write a shell script. So that will be our 6th script. So nano, all right, 6th script. Okay, so now let's see how we can go about this. All right, so we have learned about we've done a few things on shell scripting already. So let us see how we can actually bring this to life. How can we fulfill these requirements? So let's start with our shebang. Okay, so the requirement is to install Apache Web Server. Okay, that's the requirement. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see this. So here I'm going to say just put a comment. So when you want to put a comment in shell script, you can use the # symbol. So the # symbol is for comment. Okay, so installing Apache Web Server and other dependencies. Okay. Now the reason why I'm putting this is basically now when you're writing a shell script, all right, because as much as possible we're going to be following best practices. When you're writing any script, it is always good to put comment in your script because you're working in an organization, so other people, your colleagues, all right, should be able, all right, to manage, all right, your shell script. Okay. Your colleagues should be what? They should be able to manage and understand what your shell script, all right, is doing. That's very important. Okay. So here, installing Apache Web Server. So we're basically letting people know that this is exactly what we're doing. Okay. So what's the first thing we want to do? So echo. So we cannot use echo command to print that because your comment is not displayed on the terminal. It's just a comment available inside of the script. So echo, so we're going to say installing Apache Web Server. Okay, so now we're going to use the sudo command. So we're going to say sudo apt install, all right, Apache 2. In one of the videos, I told us the difference between, installing a web server on Ubuntu and on Amazon Linux, right? If you've not watched that video, I encourage you to do so. Okay. Now, again, in that video, I also told us one thing. I said, when you're dealing with Ubuntu Linux, the first thing you do before installing certain packages is to what? Update your package manager, right? And I talked about the apt update. That is the first command you need to run. So here I'm going to say sudo apt update. Now, in one of the videos, we saw that when you want to install anything, you need to put -y, or basically it's going to ask you to confirm before it installs. So you say Y to confirm. But now this is a shell script. The shell script is not supposed to be interactive. It's supposed to just execute and give us the result. Okay. So I'm going to put in here, I'm going to say -y to basically say, if there's anything you want to ask me, just go ahead and run, all right, this. Okay. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to say -y as well. Basically accept the default. Okay. Now, so that's the first thing. So I've installed Apache. Now, when you install Apache on your server, whether on your Ubuntu or on your Amazon Linux, all right, the data, all right, is stored in this location via www.html. So it creates a www directory, all right, and then an HTML directory. So your front-end application is going to be copied inside of the HTML directory. Is that okay? All right. So because if you save, let's save this. So now if I say ls var, all right, now in this space, we don't have any www directory. Okay. Look at it. There is no www directory as of now. Okay. But the moment you install your Apache, it is going to create www directory, and inside of www directory is going to create an HTML directory. All right, so let's take note of that. So let's go back to our script. All right, so let's go back. So now we know already that it's going to create a www/html directory. So that basically is where our script or our template is going to be copied into. Okay, so Apache has been installed. All right, now the next thing we want to do here is I'm going to say echo. All right, I'm going to say echo download, all right, front end, all right, template. Okay, so I want to download the front end template. Now, I'm not going to download the front-end template in my current working directory. I want to download it somewhere else. Is that all right? So I'm going to say mkdir, all right, mkdir-p. So I'm going to create it in the temp directory. So tmp slash, so let's call it web files. Okay. So I want to download my template inside of this temp. So I'm creating a directory called web files. Okay. So now I'm going to come here and say cd, all right, slash tmp slash web files, which means I'm doing what? I am changing directory, all right, into slash temp slash web files. Okay, I hope you're following. Now, so let's download. So I'm going to say wget. Okay, so I need to go and get the link of where I want to download something from, right? So I'm going to come back here, open the 2play.com. So let's assume that, we're using one of these templates. So let's say I'm using the Scave King, all right, template. So I'm going to close this. So again, come here and then go to more, open your developer tools. All right, make sure you're on the network side of things. All right, so network, make sure you're clicked right there. So scroll down, all right, and click on download. Okay, and of course, we don't need it here. So I'm just going to ignore that. And then I would say I'm looking for zip. All right, so this is the thing right here. So I'm going to right click, copy, and then I'm going to say copy URL. All right, and I'm going to paste that right here. All right, so I'm downloading this template, all right, online. Now the next thing we need to do is to what? Unzip. So we need to, is a zip, or is a zipped file. So we need to unzip it. So I'm going to say unzip. Now all of these things that I'm doing it inside of where? Inside the temp slash web files directory. That's why I'm doing it. Okay. So now I'm going to grab this. All right. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to put that. I'm going to put that right in this. Okay. So here I'm going to just grab these. All right. So here I'm going to have to put the unzip. So I'm going to say unzip, and then, so what are we unzipping? So unzipping 2137 underscore barista underscore if, all right, dot zip. So that's what we're unzipping. Okay. So now what's the next thing that we need to do? Okay. So what are we doing next? So after you unzip, what else? We have to copy, right? So we need to copy the template to our www.html directory. Remember, when you install Apache, it creates, all right, www, all right, in the var directory, and then there's an HTML directory that will also be created inside of the www directory. So that's where we are copying the file to. So we have extracted, and so we do sudo cp, because the reason why we're using sudo now is because we are copying to a directory where our user, Ubuntu user, does not have rights to actually write into. It can't modify the www or HTML directory. It doesn't have that permission. So we need sudo to do that. And we're also going to be copying recursively because, I mean, in the 2137 directory, there are other directories inside of it. So we have to copy recursively. So we say copy -r, all right? So what are we copying? So we're copying this particular folder, all right? So barista underscore cave, all right? That's what we're copying, all right? Don't forget it has been unzipped, so it means it's been extracted. So we don't have to add .zip again, okay? So we've unzipped it already. Now we're going to say slash asterisk. So basically what we are copying is the content of the directory, not the directory itself. So we are not copying the old directory to the HTML, all right, directory. So we are copying the content of that directory. That's what we're copying. So we're copying it into var www, all right, slash html slash. So basically we're copying inside of the HTML directory. Is that okay? So that's what we're doing. Now after that, so what do we do? So we can decide to restart the web server. Okay, so you can say sudo systemctl, all right, restart Apache 2. Okay, so you can decide to restart the server. But of course, if you don't restart it on Ubuntu, I don't think Ubuntu has a problem with that. All right. If you don't restart, it's fine. All right. And if you want to restart, it's also good. All right. Ubuntu does not have any issues with that at all. Now, after you have restarted, you can actually delete, okay, what you have in the web files. All right. So remember, we are still inside of the temp/web files. Okay, that's where we're still at. Because I mean, if you look at the command we ran here, we said cd. So we changed the directory to temp, the web file. So which means right now, everything that we did from here down, all right, we were doing it inside where? Inside of this particular directory. Okay, so what you can do is that you can delete, all right, that particular file. If you don't need it again, you can just say rm, all right, -rf, and then web files. I mean, you are inside of the web files, you can't delete inside of it, you can't delete like this, right? So what you can do, because I mean, if you say web files, okay, you are actually inside of web files already. So if you do it like this, of course, go and drop an error. So what you can do is you can say, you can do something like this. You can say cd, all right, change directory to your home directory, and then you can now say rm-rf/tmp/web files. So that way you are able to delete that folder safely. Okay, so let us save this. All right, let's save it and let us execute now. All right, so here the script is already executable, right? So now let's run it and let's see what we have. Okay, so I'm going to come here and then 6 script, and then I'm going to execute that. So let's see. So the update is going on, and then of course the Apache is being installed. All right, so let's just go ahead and let's see how this would go. Okay, so now everything is done. Now, if I do cd, all right, /temp, or basically tmp, all right, now we can't find web files, right? Web files are basically gone because according to the script, we actually deleted the web file. So it's no longer there. We've deleted it because I mean, it has done what we intend for it to do. So there's no point keeping it right there. So now let's go ahead to our instance. All right. So now I'll go to my Ubuntu instance right here. Now, one of the things you need to check is that, remember, when we started up our instance under the security group section, all right, we only enabled port 22. That was the only thing we did. We didn't enable port 80. Okay. So on your own end, you may not find this port 80. Okay. So what do? Because I mean, if you try to access your web server now using the public IP on your end, it won't open up because port 80 is not opened up. So what do? You go to security, you click on your instance SG right here, click on that, open it up from here, and then you can come to edit inbound rule. So in my own case, I'm just going to delete this, and then I'm going to say add rule. Here, I'm going to say HTTP. All right, it's port 80, and I'm going to allow from anywhere for now, right? So I'm going to save rule. Okay, so now if I go back to my instance, to my Ubuntu instance, if I click on my Ubuntu instance and I grab the public IP and I open it up right here and I press enter, all right, now I can see that my website, all right, is up and running. Okay, courtesy of the shell script. Okay, so all the requirement that I was told to fulfill, I have actually fulfilled it. So if I come here now, all right, I can see that I have been able to install the Apache web server and I have done it using shell scripting. But then I was told to also do the same thing on the Amazon Linux. Don't forget. Okay, so how do we do it? Now, in the shell scripting project that we're going to be working on, we're actually going to be doing what you call remote execution. Because I mean, we cannot be copying the script from one server to the other. That's going to take a lot of time. But we can actually deploy the script from one server to all the other servers. Okay, so we're going to be doing that together, all right, in the next video. But for now, let's try to see how we can fulfill these other requirements. So we're told to deploy it on our Amazon Linux. So that means I need to go here to my Amazon Linux. So on my Amazon Linux, if I do sudo systemctl httpd, all right, I don't have any sudo systemctl status, all right, httpd. We installed httpd in the last class, remember, so it's already installed, but I need to remove it. Okay, so how do you uninstall in Linux? So you can say sudo yum remove, all right, HTTPD. Okay, so run remove is so run remove basically means you want to uninstall that package. So you press enter. So basically it's going to remove everything. So including the package itself and all the dependencies will be removed. So I'm going to say why, all right, to remove everything. Because we have been told to use shell scripting to install, all right, the package. So and that's exactly what we want to do. So I'll come here, all right. So I'm going to clear my screen here. So I'll come here and I would, use cat, all right, 6. So basically I want to copy that, at least I'll do some less typing over there. So let me copy that, and then here, do your nano, all right. So let's just call it web server, okay? And then drop what you copied here. Now, but here's the catch. This is Amazon Linux, it's not Ubuntu. So which means this apt update is not going to work, right? It's not going to work here, okay? So it has to be young, okay? But then let's try to put a conditional here. Now, remember I told us about the dollar and the question mark, that you can use to evaluate a previous command if it runs successfully or not. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing right here. So now I'm going to say something like apt -help, okay? And I'm going to be redirecting that. So I'm going to use two, all right, this, and then I'm going to say redirect it to dev/null. So basically, two greater than sign basically means if there's any error at all, right, I don't want to see it, just redirect it to what? To dev null. I told us in one of the videos that a dev null is basically more like, a place where like a bottomless pit, basically. So anything you put there, you can't find it again, right? So I'm passing that argument into dev null, which means, if you can't find apt -help on this system, just, don't give me any error, just put it in the dev null, all right? Now I'm going to come here and I'm going to say if. So I'm going to run my conditions now. So I'm going to say if, all right, this command, this apt, all right, -help command, if it is equal to 0, okay, 0, all right, so what do I want to do? So then this script below should what? Should run. Which means if I execute the script on an Ubuntu machine, right, the if condition would what? Would be true, right? Because apt will return a positive, all right, a positive result for us. Because if I go on Ubuntu now and I say apt-help, all right, it's going to return to me something positive. So if I do this on Ubuntu, it's going to return, all right, successful. But if I do this on the Amazon Linux, which I want to do right now, it is going to return an error. And that is why I said two greater than sign, pass that into dev now, because I don't want to see the error. Okay. Now, so what I can do is I can come here. So I'm going to copy this again. All right. So I'm going to copy this whole thing here again. All right. So copy this, come back here. So here I'm going to copy everything again, and then I'm going to say else. All right. So else, then run this. So which means if the if block is not true, then go ahead and do what? And run this. So I'm going to delete this. I don't need the bin bash, so I'm going to remove that. Okay, so here, let's do a little bit of modification. So I'm going to say installing Apache Web Server I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to come here and say installing Apache Web Server on Ubuntu. All right. And so the one down under the else block is going to be installing. So I'm going to remove this line as well. So let's remove this line. Let's remove this line. All right. So let's remove that. So here I'm going to say installing Apache Web Server, all right, on Amazon Linux. All right. So now, already by now, you know that your Amazon Linux does not need to update. So this does not apply. Okay. It doesn't apply. And then the command is yum install. Yum install httpd. That's the command. Yum install httpd. Now, we want to use a few other things. For example, we're using the wget and we're using unzip. So we are not sure if wget is installed or the unzipping installed. So we can add it right here. So you can say wget and unzip. Okay. So that way you can add it like that. Okay, so if it is not installed, then it will install the wget and it will install on zip as well. And if it is installed, it will basically just skip the whole thing altogether. All right. So sudo yum install httpd wget on zip, and then every other thing still remains because on the Amazon Linux as well, right, and Ubuntu, basically they share the same file structure. So HTTPD, even though the name is different, it's still the same Apache web server, right? So it's still going to install in the var www/html. Okay, that's where the location is. Okay. So the only thing we're going to change here is the name of the service. So the name of the service is HTTPD. And on, as you know already, on the Amazon Linux, I told everyone we're doing the comparison that on the Amazon Linux, services are not started automatically, right? So you have to enable and then you have to start. So here I'm going to say sudo systemctl, all right, enable. So first of all, let's enable, okay, HTTPD, all right, sudo systemctl, all right, start HTTPD, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this one. So I don't need to restart it again since I'm enabling and I'm also, all right, starting. So HTTPD, okay? And here I'm doing CD, all right, going back to my home directory, and then I am removing the temp, the web files, okay? So I'm removing that folder since I don't need it again. I've done what I needed to do. So I'm removing it basically, okay? So let's save this. All right, Control X to quit out. So if I do ls, of course, you need to make this executable. So chmod plus X web server, all right? And then you now do your, all right, so if you do ls again, it's now executable. You can now run, all right, the script web service, right? Okay, so unexpected end of file. So why did we get this error? Remember the issue of the if and the fi, okay? So if you go back to that, all right, open up your web server script again. So if you go back, we have this F block here, but down here, after we typed in everything, we didn't remember to close it. So I need to put the FI, all right, to close that. So save that again, all right, exit out, and then you can run your script right now. Now, I want to show you something quickly here. So look at this here. So here it says installing Apache web server on Ubuntu. So it skipped that because I mean the if block was not true. So the else block is what got executed. So look at that, installing Apache web server on Amazon Linux. So that was the block that got executed. Is that okay? So, and that is why you see all of these things. So everything that we configured, all right, ran successfully. You can see you can see here the wget, all right, downloading the template from here. All right, you can see the unzip, all right, doing this thing, extracting the whole, all right, package, all right, and then, all right, you can see this one is just the extraction. And then you can see the systemctl enable, creating a system link, and then the HTTP service is started. So now if I go back to my instance and I copy my public IP, all right, and I open it up here and I press enter, all right, you can see that my application has also been deployed on my Amazon Linux, all right, server. Now, the next thing we're going to do together, all right, based on the requirement that we have, is how can we take the script that we have now and execute it automatically on, all right, all the other servers without copying and pasting, all right, on each of the servers individually. So how can I, from one server, all right, deploy the script on other servers. So we're going to see the for loop in action in that regard. We're going to see the if block, all right, help us, to achieve all of that. So in the next video, all right, so buckle up. We're going to be doing a shell scripting project, which is called remote execution. So we're going to see how to remotely, all right, execute a shell script, all right, on your servers, regardless of the operating system, all right? Already we see that now. So with the if conditional, we can execute the same script on, whether it's Ubuntu, whether it's Amazon Linux, we've seen that already. But what we need to see next is how to now do remote execution. So from one server, you can deploy to multiple servers all at once. So that's exactly what we're going to be looking at in the next, all right, video. So thank you so much for joining us today. All right, I will see you in the next video.